It weighs just a few ounces. It's seemingly harmless, yet the computer mouse that has probably led many people, Christians included, to more temptation than they'd want to admit. How can you avoid falling into captivating hidden sins? Find out next on Grace to You. An online Christian magazine says this: in recent years, the internet has brought the red light district into every home. And in a moment of vulnerability, the only thing standing between a man and his impulse to sin is a few moments alone and the click of the mouse. Well, temptation to sin is everywhere, for men and women, young and old alike. Even if you could shut out the world, you couldn't shut out what's already in your mind. Ultimately, your mind is the battlefield where temptation attacks. And today, on Grace to You, John Macarthur will help you, be armed for the battle for your mind, showing you how Jesus faced temptation, what he did to arm himself for the battle, and how you can learn from his example. The lesson you're about to hear is a part of a practical study. It's titled Winning the Private War Against Temptation. And now, here's John Macarthur.
Temptation is something common to all of us. And I think the greatest way to experience victory is a steadfast gaze into the face of the Master who has been there and shown us the path of victory. And if anything, this passage is designed for us to take our eyes off the temptation, focus them on the Master who was victorious in all points, tempted like as we are, yet without sin, and to be able to enter into his victory. That's what this passage is going to do for us. Now we're going to look at three parts. Verses 1 to 11, the preparation, the temptation, and the triumph. The preparation, the temptation, and the triumph. First of all, we have to set the scene a little bit by examining the preparation. Verse 1 says, "Then was Jesus led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted or tested by the devil." Let's use the word tempted. "And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward hungry. And when the tempter came to him," and we'll stop right there. Up until the first part of verse 3, we are dealing with preparation. He was led by the Spirit, and he was tempted by the devil. Now you say, wait a minute. If God tempts no man, as we noted, James chapter 1, then how in the world can the Holy Spirit drive the Son of God into a conflict with the devil? Oh, because you see, from God's viewpoint, it was a test to prove his righteousness. It was only a temptation from Satan's viewpoint. And you can't really tell the difference until you see the outcome, okay? God allows things to happen in my life. If I pass, that's a test that proves my righteousness. If I fail, that's a temptation in which I was enticed by my lust into sin. We don't really know how to define it until we see the result of it. So, the Holy Spirit leads him into the wilderness for a test. The devil is there with a temptation. When it was all said and done, he passed the test. God was vindicated. Satan was defeated. And that is the way we must look at the events and circumstances that occur to us. Let me show you a verse in the Old Testament that'll help to clarify the distinction. The 50th of Genesis, the 20th verse. Don't look it up, just jot it down. Genesis 50:20. Now listen. "But as for you," Joseph said, "you thought evil against me, but God meant it for good." Did you get that? There's the difference. Satan means it for evil, but God means it for good. And the same vicissitudes, the same struggles, from God's viewpoint, are for good to strengthen you. From Satan's point, are evil to cause you to fall. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this isn't the only time the devil tempted Christ. Some people say, well, this is it. No, it's not. No, in fact, in Matthew chapter 16, verse 23, Jesus looked Peter right in the eye and said, "Get thee behind me," whom? Satan. And what did Peter just said? You don't need to go to the cross. Lord, that's not going to happen. Don't let it happen. And Satan was tempting him to avoid the cross. He had conflict there with Satan. We find in Luke 22:28 that he said to his apostles, listen to this, Luke 22:28, "Ye are they who have continued with me in my parasmos." This was a continuous thing for him from here all the way to the Garden of Gethsemane. Now you say, well, when the devil came and tempted him, was it a real temptation? People always ask this. Theologians always ask this. Was it a real temptation? After all, he's God. And I mean, could you really tempt God? Well, let me say at the very beginning that the mystery of Christ's nature is the mystery of his temptation. And I'm not here to solve the problem, but let me answer those questions as specifically as I can. Could Christ, let's look at it this way, could Christ have sinned? The answer is no. Definitely no. Christ could not sin. You say, why do you say that? Because he is God, and God, according to Habakkuk, is of purer eyes than to behold evil, and cannot look on iniquity. God literally oozes with holiness. God overflows with righteousness. His character is without evil. God is not one who can sin. In fact, in God's own deity, he is not tempted. It is only in his humanity that could occur. James 1 says God is tempted by no one. The deity element has no way to even respond to such things. But as far as it is concerned with Jesus, he was God. The temptation could come because the humanness was there. The sin could not occur because the deity was there. And the Bible makes it very clear again and again, the sinlessness of Jesus Christ. 2 Corinthians 5:21 says it as well as any. It says, "For he hath made him who knew no sin." Christ knew no sin. None whatever. In John, I was thinking of chapter 8, I think it's verse 46. "Which of you convicteth me of sin?" he said.